Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you to Cole and thank you to Shannon and Ian for giving me the opportunity to present. This is the first kind of talk that I've done since I started working in AppSec. I'm super excited to pay it forward and sort of share some of the things that I've learned. So I'm Cass. I'm currently a product security engineer at an Australian tech company called Safety Culture. And what I'm going to talk about today is technical development for AppSec. Um, and the reason that I'm doing this talk is because my career started, you might say, unconventionally. I've never really been a software engineer, so my learning curve has been pretty steep and pretty different. So yeah, I'm just really excited to share some of the things that I've learned along the way. So we'll get straight into it. Really quickly, I just want to touch on what AppSec means to me, or application security. I'm going to call it AppSec a lot. It can mean different things to different people, which you find when you interview for AppSec roles. Some people think of it as a really niche and specialized security role, and it is. But there's also lots of different skills that are required to do it. So it's kind of broad in sense as well. But really, application security is about designing and building more secure applications and software. We have lots of disciplines in security. So we have governance, we have risk, we have awareness, and this is just one of those areas. Sorry, I'll just have a drink of water. Cool. So my career started when I was at university. I had to do 2 internships as part of my degree. The first one of these was in user experience, which is the unconventional part, and the second one was in a project management role at Westpac. I actually really enjoyed both of these roles, and I know a lot of engineers and security people might think they sound a bit kind of abstract, and they can be at times. But there's some key takeaways that I had that I kind of use every day in my role as an AppSec person. And the reason that I kind of flag this is because if you're coming from a different background, there will definitely be things you'll be able to bring to the table. Apologies. Cool. After I did my internships, I was really lucky. I had been able to come back to Westpac as a graduate, and they kind of asked me what I wanted to do, and I pretty much said, put me anywhere but project management and UX. And it's not because I didn't love those areas, but it's because I really wanted to see what was out there before I kind of committed myself for my whole career. And so I was really lucky to then be introduced to security assessment. And security assessment really just means security testing. Took me a long time to figure that out, but that's really all it means. There are a few different areas when we talk about security assessment, but really security assessment is all about finding bugs, finding vulnerabilities, and finding issues in applications, services, infrastructure. The typical perception of pen testers is that photo on that slide, but obviously we don't look like that every day. But that's what security assessment is all about. Off the back of being introduced to security assessment for about 6 months, I realized that I love the people who I was working with in the AppSec team. And that was also kind of the most interesting area for me personally. And so I decided to kind of come back full-time as an AppSec consultant. This was where I kind of learned the really core skills of being an AppSec professional. And I won't go into too much depth here, simply because I think these things have to be researched and kind of done hands-on to really understand. But at a glance, when you do AppSec at a big organization, a lot of it is about using security tools, because it's really difficult to scale the work that AppSec delivers when you're dealing with thousands of applications. There are a lot of tools and they just do a lot of different things, but again, they're really just there to find vulnerabilities. I can give some examples. So there are some tools, they're called static analysis tools. They'll kind of just run rules against raw source files. There's also source composition analysis tools that will look at dependencies and kind of let you know when there's known vulnerabilities or they need to be patched. And then there's also web application firewall tools that can kind of help protect your application in real time from incoming requests that appear to be malicious. I'm talking about the tooling because I think it's kind of important to understand what the different types of tools are and why they're important to AppSec. I know that you can go and use community editions and kind of experiment with them to get a better feeling for what they do. And there are sample repositories like WebGoat as well that you can use to get an idea of what these tools are doing. Once you're starting to use tools, you're going to want to stop doing all of the manual work around them. And this is kind of where you can get into building scripts and automation to support tools and AppSec operations. So in my role as an AppSec consultant, a good example was that there was just a requirement to reduce the manual task because we were servicing so many applications. And so one of the things that I did, I kind of went in my own time and learned automation in Python. There's a great course that Google has on Coursera, and it's relatively inexpensive. I can highly recommend it. I kind of learned some core Python scripting skills and then came back and kind of automated everything that our team was doing, not by myself. Obviously, I worked with a great team of people, but that was a really good experience. And that was kind of my step into understanding engineering a little bit better and being able to actually build code that was helping streamline our work. And I guess the final part of this is to get intimate with DevSecOps. DevOps is all about development workflows and making engineers' lives easier, making it easier to write, push, deploy, and test code. And when we talk about DevSecOps, we're really looking at where can security come into it and kind of embed in the development workflow rather than raising hundreds of tickets for engineers to go and fix. And so DevSecOps is quite an important part for an AppSec engineer, especially when you're working at scale. Just on this slide really quickly, these last two areas, scripting and DevSecOps, they're not unique to AppSec by any means. They're very transferable skills. Any engineer will be using DevOps tooling, and most engineers will have to do scripting and automation as well. And the reason that I only have Python there, obviously you can use any language that you want, but Python is super easy to use, really easy to learn, and quite powerful. And so that brings me to kind of the current phase of my journey. I'm currently doing product security engineering. And all of these are still concepts of application security, but I'm mentioning them here simply because I've done them more in my current role. So I'll start off with manual code reviews. This is just saying instead of using the awesome tools that we talked about before, this is all about kind of reading code line by line and trying to identify vulnerabilities that way. This is extremely difficult to do without doing some sort of engineering or writing code in different languages. So currently what I've started to do is I've started to learn Golang because that's the language that's used at my current workplace. And then I've built some tools to look at PRs that might have vulnerable code, and I'll also spend time reviewing them manually. So that's a really good way to practice manual code reviews. The other aspect I've done a lot of in this current role is web app pen testing, which I wasn't really exposed to at a corporate level. So web app pen testing is just injecting malicious input or tampering with the application and behaving in a way that it might not expect or might not be able to handle without revealing vulnerabilities. You can do this with Portswigger Web Academy. They have some free labs that are really, really great. You can also do this by doing security research, which I wish someone had told me to do years ago. But essentially, you can sign up to things like BugCrowd or HackerOne and kind of just learn how to responsibly disclose vulnerabilities. And the final part of what I've been doing is develop awareness and training, because I finally feel like I'm at a place where I can talk about what I've learned. And the wonderful loop with AppSec is you must learn before you can teach. So you've got to learn engineering, you can then teach secure coding, and then you can also practice secure coding and test your own code and the things that you build. And just before I wrap up, I just want to say it's really easy to look back on someone's journey and be like, oh, wow, you've come such a long way. But really, I've always looked for people that I liked working with. And that was the reason that I started working in AppSec as well. So find people that you like working with, and maybe just stick around and make friends with them. And that's it. If you have questions or feedback, please let me know in the Discord channel or reach out to me on LinkedIn and have a little giggle at that meme.